Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to preface this by saying this is my first presentation ever. Slow me down if I start going like 50 miles a minute speech-wise, because that just means that I'm supremely nervous. So, my talk, fabulous. OMNOMNOM! It's my take on InfoSec. And maybe I can actually make this work. Nope. Kind of. See, it's not going to work the way I want it to. See, I'm having technical difficulties now, but...
I'll drive yourself.
No, it's good. I got it. So, this is me. Not the picture, that's my cat. Minu, yes. She's wonderful. But I am April. April M. Jones, because there are so many April Joneses. Doesn't matter if I give you my middle name or not, you will not find me on Google, Bing, or any of your favorite search engines. There's a lot of April Joneses in the world. It's great to have that anonymity. I am, as stated, a newbie in InfoSec. I have actually technically only been in InfoSec for 8.5 months. I've been kind of peripherally for 2 years, 2.5, something like that. I am obligated to tell you that I work for Microsoft. Nothing in this talk in any way, shape, or form is anything related to Microsoft to start with, or represents the reviews or stances of Microsoft as a company. But I'm obligated to tell you that. So, I have a question for you all. Why, those of you who will remember, why does a Linux installation correlate to pizza and beer? Anybody? Anybody?
Want to use servers?
No, it correlates. It's relevant to it. Initially, no, as in, well, okay. Since nobody quite gets it, all right. Initially, it was because Linux installations took so long that you just make it a party, order some pizza, get some beer, bring your friends over, because it just took that long to install Linux. So, this portion, the and food, was something I first noticed when I went to my first B-Sides ever. And that was BSides Augusta. What was it? 2016? 2014. I'm sitting there and I don't understand the jargon, right? I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, in these talks, because my significant other's there and he's the one who's in InfoSec and everything like that. And I'm listening to these talks and most of the jargon's going, shoo. And I'm realizing I'm getting hungry. And I start to tune into what I'm hearing. And I start noticing I'm hearing a lot of food being talked about, but they're not talking about food. They're talking about various portions of InfoSec. So, and that's because everything in life revolves around food, but in InfoSec it's like 10 times worse. Because I was hearing about hashes and salting the hashes and security onion and onion salt, and I'm going, I have these things in my kitchen at home. So, and some of the things that I was hearing talked about were things that I could make. Deliciousness. So, So I started writing it down. Pulled out my trusty little notebook, which I've got in my backpack at current, and I started just writing it down. Like, okay, so they're talking about this and this and this and this, and this is food. This is all food, or food related. I don't know. Okay, all right. So when I was creating this talk, I was like, all right, well, I know there's other things. So I tossed in a few of the normal computery goodness, just to round it out, to say, oh, it's not just InfoSec, it just happens to be mostly InfoSec. So, And the funniest part about this was after the talk that we were in, that I started hearing all these things and started racking my brain and made my list. I turned to Tori and I go, InfoSec's related to food. All about food. And I started pointing out and I showed him the list and he's like, I've never thought of it that way. You're right. So what I'm hoping to share with you here some of the things that have come to mind for me, and to ask you guys to shift your method of thinking about InfoSec, and to bring some of perhaps your own realizations to the rainbow table. Cookies and apples. Oh my. So I'll start with this wonderful deliciousness that's been around for ages now. Probably as long as some of you have been alive. So who wants a cookie?
Oh, right.
Who wants apples? I've got cookies and apples, legitimate cookies, legitimate apples right over here. Please come take. There's a talk after mine, so you have another hour plus the rest of my talk before lunch, and I will make you hungry.
Yes.
Please, feel free. I got apples for the people who maybe want gluten-free or are trying to be healthy. Yes, please. I will state, mad props, because of the Charleston Farmers Market is going on. The apples came from the farmers market. Purchased this morning.
Nice.
Please feel free. They're, I think, Rome apples and Jonagold apples, if I remember right. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So, wait. What you see on the screen and what you hear me talking about right now are completely different from what they actually are. Cookies have been around since, I don't know, since we first started doing websites. As far as I'm aware, first started visiting websites. There are those delicious things that, especially nowadays, you get notifications, hey, this website uses cookies, is that okay? Well, yeah, my browser's hungry, and so's my computer, give it a cookie. Just don't feed my mouse, that's all I ask. Macintosh, you hear Macs, but it used to be Macintosh, and it's the original of Apple's systems. You know, the Macintosh 2Es, the Apple 2Es, and the different like Macintosh types of systems, and I remember some of those with the giant 5-inch floppy disks. Yeah, who remembers floppy disks of any size? Awesome. And then, of course, Apple is the opposite side from mine of one of the big tech companies that we all owe our souls to, and lots of money. So let's start with breakfast. Who had breakfast this morning? Awesome. Those of you who didn't and normally do, even you didn't grab a cookie or an apple, you might want to. You will be hungry by the end of this. So here's where we start getting into InfoSec, right? With breakfast. Hashes. Salting the hashes. The first thing I thought of when hashes were hash browns. I know a lot of other people immediately thought something else when they heard hashes. But this was the first thing that popped into my mind. First thing, and then of course you want to salt the hash. You need a little bit of flavor to the hash browns, right? Salt it. And then it makes it delicious. That is not what it really is. Hashes, I had to look these things up. I'm sad to say, like I said, I am a newbie in InfoSec, but I did my research to the best of my ability. Instead of giving you quoted things, I kind of generalized it to the best I could. Hashes, collection of keys and variables that and values that usually used for passwords, and it just kind of mixes them up a little. When you salt it, it adds some more stuff to it, garbage and jargon that gets understood by whatever you're putting your password into. but it makes it more difficult for those with questionable morals to get a hold of them. So, while in the culinary sense, too much salt is bad, it's not necessarily bad in InfoSec. So we will continue, and let's go to the next bit. All right, so who has onions and onion salt in your kitchen? Who has no clue what they've got in their kitchen? I have onions. I have onion salt. I use both. And if I don't, she does. So I got to thinking about this. I was like, because they were talking security onion. I was like, onion. That's all I heard was onion, not security. I just heard onions. Like, onions made me think of Shrek, actually. Onions. Onions, ogres have layers, because onions have layers. And I'm just like, and then you watch him eat that thing, and I'm just like, they used to. Onions used to get eaten by, like, fruit. But this isn't really what we're talking about in InfoSec, is it? Must be security onion, which is a distribution of Linux, has a whole lot of different things in it. And we must also be talking about onion salt, which was written by Mike Reeves for salt for the security onion distribution of Linux. So, apparently, onion salt, last I saw it was updated, there it is, the 20th of January 2015. That was the last update that I saw on the Security Onion website. So, I don't know if they're still updating it or what. Hopefully they are, because it looked like it was really cool. So, you hungry yet? Ready for the main course? Pulled pork.
That's gonna be beef.
Nope, pulled pork. You're in the South, man. Who doesn't like barbecue? And we are in South Carolina, where barbecue is pork. You're not in the Midwest where it's beef. It's okay. But wait. That's what it really is, right? It's a program. It's what Snork uses for rule management. I think the guy who was doing the talk, when he talked about pulled pork, I immediately thought of, what you put into a crock pot and you leave it there for hours and hours and you come at it with your forks and pull it apart. And no. And then he mentioned snort, and I'm like, that doesn't jive with pulled pork in my head. This is true. It's not supposed to be snorting at that point. If it's snorting at that point, then something's wrong, and your crock pot is messed up, or someone missed a few steps. But, and I'm not gonna lie, I think this is my favorite snort picture that I have come across on the interwebs at all, ever. So, this one, the next one, I misheard this. I misheard this, or I misremembered it, and I thought, oh, sliced salami. I even wrote down, sliced salami. No. When I went looking for it, I discovered it's salami slicing, which is a form of attack that people use to get, it uses like little bits of information. Who's seen the movie Hackers? Oh, that's such a small number. Those of you who have not seen the movie Hackers, go watch it. It is a perfect example of salami slicing. Perfect example. The attack that's in there. I mean, in fact, some of the things that I found that were, when I was researching it and found that I had it named wrong, actually referenced the movie Hackers. They referenced a few other movies, but Hackers was in there, and I was like, yeah. Because I like that movie. That's a cool movie.
Beautiful.
Yes. Acid burn. Keep going for deliciousness. How about some fruit? I mean, we've got some apples, right? So how about if there's other fruit? Pineapples. Wait a minute. What do you mean that pineapples aren't fruit when it comes to InfoSec? What do you mean? Oh, right. It's also a networking thing, but yeah, I didn't figure that I needed actual text on this slide to explain pineapples because I'm pretty sure that picture kind of speaks for itself. For a little bit, when I first heard about pineapples, I'd never seen one, and I'm like, why did they call it pineapple? And then I saw one and went, okay, I get it now. I get it. Well, we're getting into fruit. Must mean it's about time for dessert. You all ready for dessert?
Sure.
Here we go. Who does not like some fresh, homemade raspberry pie? Especially with some ice cream? Delicious. The type that maybe it's not homemade, maybe it's from a store, but you can't tell because it's that good. Wait a minute, we're still talking InfoSec, right? Must mean that raspberry pies are not actual pies. I'm still hungry, but no, they're those lovely little tiny devices that keep getting tinier and tinier and tinier as they go along. They have various Linux distributions on them. I actually inherited Tori's old one because he got a new one. I have yet to play with mine, but his is actually smaller than the one that he had initially, and I'm like, raspberry pies you need a big slice of, right? Why are they so small? So that you can stick them in your pocket and take them with you so that you go do whatever InfoSec that you need to do, be it black hat or white hat, then you've got something right there. It travels well. Very versatile device. I do have 2 special mentions. This was all that I had at this point that made me think food. My special mentions are Golden Ticket, which is not really, it's I can only tell you realistically off the top of my head what they are, what they made me think of. I heard Golden Ticket, the first thing that popped in my head I've seen there is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Both the original movie, I haven't seen the new one with Johnny Depp. Obviously I haven't seen it, so I can't remember his name. But the old one with Gene Wilder, that made you question his sanity. But those chocolate bars, you unwrap, and if you had that golden ticket, that was your way into his factory to check it out, and there's still tape up here. So it made me think chocolate. And then rainbow tables, which there's a hilarious story with this one too. You have to have somewhere to eat your delicious InfoSec, don't you? So, yes, I looked up the rainbow tables because I had gotten this question in my interview for the position I currently have at Microsoft. And I knew the answer, but I couldn't pull it from the ether right then and there. So instead of just going, I don't know, or I know but I can't remember, I said, that's where unicorns go to eat their food, right? My interviewer made me repeat it because she couldn't believe that she'd heard that. I repeated it and she died laughing. So score 1 for humor. But yeah, I know now that name to answer is that it's the list of various passwords that can be used for nefarious purposes or otherwise. So it's up to a certain length, and it's a list that go through and just hammer away at, and it can be used to reverse hashes. Remember breakfast? Reverse hashes. So At this time, if you have any questions, which I doubt you do, but if you have any questions, or maybe you're hungry, there's still some apples, still some cookies.
Well, we have a question actually.
Okay.
Do you prefer
Pineapple, lemon, or strawberry?
Strawberry?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. That's a good
You
question.
didn't fly to get here, did you?
No.
Okay.
No, I drove. It was a short drive.
After you drove. So,
Well, there's other people in the vehicle who drive.
Fuel, you can probably power the car.
Ooh. So. Question, sorry.
What made you decide to get into InfoSec?
I was pulled here kicking and screaming. Almost pulled kicking and screaming. Secondhand paranoia, just kind of natural progression. I was already in IT, significant others in InfoSec, and has been for years. He started dragging me to the B-sides once we moved out here to Charlotte. And it just kind of happened. It's kind of like me being in IT. It just kind of happened. So.
Have you heard of beef?
I had not heard of beef.
Because that's where, because I know you brought it up, but you want to explain what
So
that is?
Beef is a browser execution framework that you can use in a pen test to hook up, social engineering attack where, let's say in this case, you get a user to go to a site that's been hooked. And then once they visit the site and they get hooked, then now you can kind of control their access in the environment and kind of get access to the environment.
Yeah, it's basically a JavaScript, super JavaScript.
So there's a lot of cool things, like you can have pop-ups show up that says they have an update, which is not an update. It might be a payload or something like that. So
I know what you're talking about. I work in the incident response, so the malwares.
Yeah.
You could work that into your next job.
I could. I'll have to write it down. Like I said, I've got my little notebook. So.
Can anyone else think of any other food-related?
You, sir.
Dead beef.
Dead beef.
That's true. Yeah.
Favorite hex.
I'll have to remember that one. I'll write it down. Are there any others? Surely someone's come across something else that I didn't come across. Even if it's just computery goodness related, we'll take that too.
BBcast was written about gentle kiwi.
Was it? It's true.
Gentle kiwi. Yeah.
Maybe a wine.
You guys think of the rookie.
Wine. I hadn't even thought of that. Thank you.
Cherry pie is a GUI for Python.
Cherry pie?
Sure,
Sure.
that's a HTTP server for Python.
Oh.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to jot the. I should actually pull that notebook out and jot these down. You guys thought I was joking about this then. So you got an idea?
I'm trying to think about it.
The list started on the back of this notebook. Oh yeah, I did write down, but didn't put it in here because it was I talked about the hashes, insulting the hashes, but the hash attack.
Oh yeah.
I'm sitting here like, oh.
You also have wine.
Yeah, he mentioned that,
Oh.
and I didn't even think of that one. I should have. Use Linux. So.
And then if you get through eating everything, you have to burp.
Yeah, burp.
Oh, that's true.
Very true.
These
Yeah.
are good.
Yeah.
And if you get sick, you have crackers.
See, that one's an iffy one. That's an iffy one. Any others? No? I appreciate you all listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.